Hey everybody, I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are all on the lifeboat, riding on the lifeboat. What do we got here? See what happens when you let your daughter touch any equipment? All bad. All bad. So, alrighty everybody. First of all, I want to thank everybody that reached out and sent us really nice messages on yesterday's video. It went over pretty well. Something wrong with you?
When you let your daughter touch your equipment.
That's why that thing was making noise. Sorry, I do have my daughter with me again today, and there's a reason for this. This is not just gratuitous. I'm going to work my kid. Miss V, I'm sorry to hear that. We got some thoughts and prayers going out to Miss V, who's not feeling well. Yeah, that's a bummer. Okay, so here's the way it went down. So after last night's live feed, a lot of you reached out and said some really nice things, and my daughter and I, sat around and talked afterwards. And as I've said many times, if you're unfortunate enough to be, to have me as a dad, you're really gonna get you're gonna get hammered a lot on this whole crisis. And it's going to be something that I talk about all the time, and the fact that, what the pills look like and all of these different things. And I kind of took for granted that I wasn't the first person to be talking to her about this, or I wasn't the only person to be talking to her about this. Because of the age of my daughter, I really kind of felt like this was something that, the school's got to be hammering this home, right? It's got to be something that they're absolutely, once a month, pulling them in and doing, some kind of a education thing. M. Hunt is munching sour bright fruit. Gummy worms. Love them. All right, people. So I started talking to my daughter, and there's nothing. Literally.
You are the only person who has spoken to me about this in detail or in an educational setting.
Absolutely amazing. But this is where we're at right now, people. And so I started to do a little bit more research. I was doing some deep dive stuff on this. And one of the things that I find the most frightening is a trend that we're seeing right now. And it's definitely across our country. I don't know if it's around the world, but it's definitely around across our country. This, people, this is the modern drug dealer, right? When we were growing up, drug dealers had pagers, and there was all of these different things that were sort of put into place so that you could get in contact with individuals to try to get dope. These days, these people can go on Instagram. They can go on Snapchat. My daughter said when she was in school, Snapchat was mostly the...
So when I was in high school, mainly, I think, sophomore and junior year, I would see good friends of mine talking about plugs that they've added on Snapchat. And with Snapchat, you can talk to the person, but it isn't going to deliver until they've accepted your request. And so you have had people advertising themselves as... You can get something, mainly nicotine, but every once in a while you'll get edibles or a couple blunts from this person. And I remember hanging out in my friend's neighborhood at a park, waiting for some kid who had probably just gotten his driver's license to pull up and get $30 from my friend to get edibles and a vape.
And to do it right through the phone. This is one of those things that if it doesn't scare the hell out of you people really, truthfully, ought to terrify us. I know I yell all the time about the beast from the east. The more research that I do on this, I tend to blame that country for the vast majority of what's ending up on our streets. And I'm not off base on that by any stretch. But what we have done is supply and demand has created a larger demand than the supply is feeding, which is incredible if you think about it. But because of the amount of demand that there is for this crap, India is now jumping in on the game, and I mean really getting into it. And the vast majority of the stuff now is made in Mexico. Now, granted, the chemicals that they're getting are coming from, our enemy, our red enemy. But this is the reality of where we're at today. So I'm talking to my daughter, and I said, obviously the number one cause of death, and you've all heard me say this 500 times. Can you imagine that they're not telling anybody in high school this? So Cedar was there during the last 3 years. She's a freshman in college. So for the last 3 years, she's been going to school, and in California, right? Which is, it's not like that's a state that's not at the epicenter of this. It's frightening to me, and I hope it's frightening to all of you, that there is no education anymore. So I started to try to figure out why. As I talked last night, they pulled the plug on the DARE program. It's never been replaced. There's never been anything to replace it. What Cedar was describing yesterday with the Red Ribbon campaign, it really is just sort of like photo ops and and a cool concept. And it's not something where they're talking to high school students about this. These are like middle school aged, and you see a lot of the on chain link fences and whatever they'll usually tie up say no or drug free or anything like that using these red ribbons. And I did a little reading about it across how what kind of campaigns it is across the country. There's no education.
No.
I kid you not. There's nothing.
I don't remember any Red Ribbon Week presentation besides we might have had an assembly back in elementary school where the principal was like, if somebody offers you drugs, what are you going to say? And all of the fifth grade class say no. And that was it.
Well, and here's the thing, though. So middle school, this is not really, when you were in middle school, the opioid epidemic was already it was in full swing. But nothing like it is now. The last 3 years have seen this explode in ways that we hoped it never would. The newest statistics to come out of the CDC have it north of 300 deaths a day. I believe it's probably north of 400 deaths a day. But this is another one of those times where the crew of the lifeboat can actually do something about this. No joke. This is something that you can actually do something about. I know that a lot of times you feel like your hands are tied in this entire epidemic. You feel like there's not much that anybody can do about this. We are to a place now. Oh, Miss B, very kind. Miss B just gifted the lifeboat membership. We are at a point now where you can reach out to educational, all across the U.S. Reach out and say, what's going on? How do you teach kids about the epidemic? How are you talking to them? Who do you bring in to talk to them? I assure you, I'm going to be doing this, really, and not so much just to be a buster of chops or buster of any other things, but I really would like to know what kind of education they are. Hey, Monk, I would really like to know what kind of education they're teaching, and is it being taught by police officers, school teachers? Because that is a failed model, and it never worked. Didn't work ever. But it was really proven during the whole DARE thing that trying to talk to kids through the use of police officers and teachers. I don't know if you guys remember what it felt like to be 15, 16, 17. But there were two people we really didn't want to listen to much. And teachers and cops were really high on that list. Really, truthfully, high on that list. I'm sorry, I thought I saw a name. I am meeting with the assistant superintendent tomorrow. Heather Joy, I love that. And I am going to be, cops failed miserably at drug education. We laughed and mocked them. Across the board, right? Good.
They either were jokes. Well, I never got talked to by cops, but the people who tried to educate us about drugs, we either laughed out of the room, not literally, but afterward it was just a huge joke, or we were scared by them. And I remember it was the same format as an anti-bullying campaign, those presentations.
Right.
And I remember we had one that it happened in the same way that, if you don't want to hear something, just say ouch. And you could use that for peer pressure as well, apparently. And I remember walking into the bathroom and seeing people literally playing chicken, pounding on the bathroom stall doors going, ouch, and arguing about the Bible. And if you try to use that with drug education, you're going to get the same exact responses. It was a joke.
You're going to get people calling
The ouch thing was a huge joke at my school for probably 3 months afterward.
When I was in high school, I was a class of 88, they brought in a guy named Toma, right? And he was the police officer that they based a pretty famous cop show from the 1970s on. It was supposed to be based on his character, and he was a drug cop in New York City. So when he came out to see us, it was 2.5 hours of horror stories, and he would tell us a story about a guy that smoked a joint and lost all the feeling on the right side of his body. And I remember this like it was yesterday. That was it. A couple of hits off a joint, and one side of his body went completely numb. So for the next 6 weeks, someone would pass a joint, and instantly the guy would go, "I can't feel my right side." They definitely made no headway, and sadly, it was worth clowning at one point. There was not a whole lot of danger, truthfully. I mean, the drugs that we were doing in the 80s, it's such a different landscape right now, and the designer drugs. You're the same age as me, Tommy. 53 next week. Class of 88 too. It was a tough class. It really was. The drugs that was if you look up statistics based on years, I think we're either the second worst or third worst. I think 86 was or 85 was the worst, by way of how many people passed away from the use of drugs or alcohol. There was probably a lot. I mean, I think we lost 4 or 5 in the first summer after high school.
The only condition that I can think of, and it's been mentioned to me by a close friend of mine, is cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, CHS, which is a condition. It's rare when you smoke, but it's a condition that leads to just complete body sickness. I remember my friend was hospitalized for a little over a week. But they act like that's going to happen to everybody.
And then when it doesn't, they lose all credibility.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that the vicious misinformation. Do you guys remember? I know you will. But do you remember the nicotine scare with Juul? Do you remember this? There were 6 people across the U.S. who ended up in hospitals. And all of them, not one of them made it. But you're a sicko.
No, I remember that being used as a scare tactic, and then I remember laughing it off when I would.
Well, but the sad reality is this: like so often happens, the truth of that never got out to the public. 5 of those 6 kids admitted before because it did kill all of them, but 5 of the 6 said that. Yeah, they were buying canisters of weed for pens in states that this was not legal. So there were people making this. There was no quality control. It wasn't like you were going to a dispensary or anything like that. But the final one, I promise you, just didn't want to come clean before he died. I guarantee you, because the truth be told, I mean, I'm not suggesting that vapes are great for you. By any stretch. I don't think anything that you breathe into your lungs is probably great for you. Yeah. But Juul didn't kill 6 people.
No.
It really didn't. And so often, it was funny, I was talking to Cedar earlier, and she said that one of the phrases that loses the kids from her generation is the word laced.
Yeah.
And I got to agree. I think that I think the way we talk to kids about drugs needs to change. When you say, a lot of the drugs you're doing can be laced with fent, you just sound like somebody from 1950, or you sound like somebody from the movie Reefer Madness. The scary thing is that it absolutely can be, right? I don't know if the word tainted might be a better word. I don't know how about just contains? So much of what you are doing today contains a deadly substance, right? And then start, breaking into this whole fent conversation. But if we don't start talking cut with, yeah, that's not bad.
I see any of the phrases were just lost on me. I genuinely don't know what I would have been told then that would have made me believe, and I still cannot conceptualize or wrap around my brain. What did you say? 400 deaths a day? That
a day
seems asinine and impossible. Like being told that as a high school age kid when you were talking to me, I
didn't seem real.
Blew it off, and that sucks because you of all people know exactly what you're talking about. But it was just not something you could take seriously because of all the other things I've been told about. Drug use is life abuse. The second you do one thing, you're going to drop dead. It didn't register with me at all.
Well, yeah, you know what Diary of a Madman said? I thought it was a joke until that crap happened. You know what's a really, from my generation, in high school, most of us were already experimenting with a lot of different drugs. And one of the drugs that, we had started to experiment with was the white stuff that you sniff up your nose.
Cute.
Honestly, it would make sense if she spent an hour with the bums downtown. You know what, Spanx? There really is something to be said for empirical, data, like when you're actually seeing it happen. And there's, honestly, I think that wouldn't be such a bad idea. Or show people videos of Kensington. Right, get a look at that street, because if you look at Kensington and a good 7 or 8 minutes of them just driving down that street and filming, it's not difficult to believe that 400 people a day are dying nationwide. But when I was in high school, we would all start to we had started to do the Bolivian stuff, right, and snort it, and we did not believe that what they told us was real, because what they used to tell us in high school was that 2 G's, right, 2 grams of white, if it's pure, and pure is a relative term for that stuff, but 2 grams could kill a grown man. And we just thought, of course it can, right? And weed's going to make you grow breasts and all of the other stupid stuff that they told us. And then an athlete who had been drafted to play in the NBA, he was a guy named Len Bias, and he was supposed to be the Celtics golden boy. Like he was absolutely going to change that team, and he was going to be a gift to the NBA. And all of a sudden, we heard that he had a heart attack, and instantly, is SHRM still a thing? Absolutely it is. And I will happily talk about that in a second, because it absolutely is definitely a thing. But once Len Bias died, his heart exploded. He had what was called a cocaine coronary. And I promise you, we looked at things differently. It definitely affected the way that that we did what we did. Coburn says, after working with kids recently, I don't believe scare tactics will work at all.
No.
They think they're invincible. It won't happen to them. What replaces that? I'm not sure. You know what? This is something that I cannot tell you how much time I've spent thinking about this. I really can't. I think what you got to do is just pray that they make good decisions, truthfully, and give them enough information to do so. The idea of trying to scare people straight. But if you say, look, you know what, the pills that are going around, you really need to test these things, right? Many states are giving out fentanyl test strips, but if you don't, listen to facts. And I agree with you. You give them the information, but you show them what a Perk 30 looks like. If you look at the thumbnail that I put up today, that is what the vast majority of this poison is getting pressed into. Not by any stretch of the imagination is it everything that it's getting pressed into, because we're seeing Adderall, we're seeing Ritalin, a lot of Xanax, even Valium. Any pills that they feel like people are very familiar with. That's a recurring thing. Now, as far as SHRM goes, SHRM was a catch-all phrase for a while. In theory, it was what PCP was, and they would dip a cigarette into a liquid version of PCP, and they would sell it SHRM sticks, like one cigarette, and one of them will absolutely destroy an entire group full of people, and it's a very, very, a very potent and a very dangerous substance. Sadly, a lot of things got lumped into the name SHRM. So literally embalming fluid was a big one, where people would take embalming fluid, sounds crazy, right? And dip a smoke into embalming fluid, or they would roll up anything that you could put into a joint. It didn't have to be weed, which was kind of pointless to use weed because it was going to override whatever the hell you put on it anyway. But there were people who would roll up, tea leaves, whatever, and then dip this stuff into embalming fluid. There was a lot of talk about people that used certain kinds of bug spray, and I used to think that was completely horse crap until I went to prison and watched people do it. Like they had to remove some of the chemicals, allowing inmates to have access to certain kinds of poisons meant they were taking it, spraying it onto pieces of paper, and smoking it exactly the same way that they would this K2 stuff that's going all over the place. It's we're in a really scary time, and sadly, there's nobody talking about it. There really isn't. I think that we've got to do everything within our power. How do you smoke a wet cigarette? I'm sorry, this is the first I've heard of it. Well, and they use the term wet, right? In fact, they would call using SHRM getting wet. They dip it in there and let it dry. They don't hand it to you soaking wet. So it would be dipped in there, and then you let this thing dry out, and can't possibly name you all. Thanks. Pagan, good to see you. People, Pagan said hello to all of you. Got that taken care of. But yeah, it was SHRM was a scary substance. It seems like things like that go away, and you go, well, PCP isn't a thing anymore, right? Maybe in some inner cities, but like Angelo with the fishing line and Raid. Yeah. But what you end up with instead is these synthetic cannabinoids, which are not cannabinoids by any stretch of the imagination. But, and I did a show on these. They get sold under the name Spice. They get sold under the name K2. They get all of these different, but all of them, if you look, and I'm not trying to tell anybody how to get this stuff, but the places where this stuff is sold, they would refer to the entire class of the stuff that really makes people insane as the J class. And the J was an abbreviation for the last name of the guy who came up with most of this stuff. But people randomly order this, and then they get it, they break it down with denatured alcohol, shake it up in a bottle, and they spray it on the paper. And this is huge inside prisons because it's such an easy thing to get in. People will mail in legal mail and soak the paper. And honestly, people, they would cut these pieces of paper up to where, it looked like an eyelash. These things were so small you could barely see them, and they were about $6. And the people would just sit there and smoke one after the other like crack. Like it was one of those things that guys would go completely broke. And the episodes that I described on here were people have complete and utter meltdowns, screaming at the top of their lungs, hallucinating, really kind of scary, scary things. I miss my old ceramic bong. Diary of a Madman says, I've done PCP once, ended up running from the cops butt naked through my neighborhood. You remember the other day when I talked about how every drug you have a vision of in your head? That's the PCP vision, right? It really is. And this is something that happens again and again and again. Apparently, when you do PCP, one of the first things that happened is you get really hot really quickly. Like you overheat, and one of the first things that happen is the clothing pops off.
You remember the only thing you remember Kenny with the cats in South Park? That's the only thing I could think of is yeah.
The Life of Dennis Brace. I don't know that I've ever said hello to you, Life of Dennis Brace. Welcome to the lifeboat. Glad that you're here. I can't even remember the last time I got sick from the flu. That's a beautiful thing. It was an absolutely beautiful thing. So yeah, the cemetery. My goodness. Cemetery just gifted 5 lifeboat memberships. Boy, that's huge, man. That is absolutely huge. I love it. I really do. Yeah, thank you, Cemetery. That really is very cool stuff. Wow, I'm with Diary of a Madman. Wow. So we're into a situation today, people, where if we don't do this, it's not going to get done. I don't know if I could do any justice to the shock that the conversation I had with my daughter was. I mean, shock. You know, they didn't talk to you about anything?
No.
Not a word? I mean, that's, you know, she probably finds it funny, but it literally was one of those situations where it scared the hell out of me. And I agree with it. There's almost no way to do this right. That's the sad reality. You know, I think that Coburn made a great point. You're not going to scare kids. You're not. You know, kids, and I was the same guy. You know, I was the same person. You couldn't tell me anything. You couldn't.
The sad part is I never got, at least in, I mean, you did very well, but the only really good drug conversation that I had was after I had already used. And it was, I told you about this, it was, so, what was it like? You enjoy the buzz? What do you think you didn't like about it? And it wasn't I can't believe you did this.
Didn't get yelled that much.
Stupid. It was a sort of, well, break it down for me. Why do you think you would do this again? Why do you think you wouldn't? And I don't know how that conversation would play out before a kid uses, besides, see, the problem is,
I think the attitude is what's more important.
Yeah.
You know, you may not have the exact same conversation, but the attitude of, I'm not going to scare the hell out of you, or I'm not going to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
If there's a discussion about drugs. Did I crap all over you? I don't remember being very mean to you.
From what I remember you said something like, you're not going to lie to me right now, so just tell me.
Right.
Which ones? And I was like, crap, I'm caught!
Yeah, well, and you know what? I had actually reached out to your brother, and I knew something was up.
Yeah.
You and I had a phone conversation one day where I was like, this girl's high. You know what I mean? It was, sorry I'm late, by the way. Good to see you. Wonderful peeps, including Captain and Cedar. See that? Got a hello. And you know what? I gotta tell you this, people, because this is just, I think this is really, really, this just cracked me up. So, you know, I was talking to my daughter, and I said, there's a lot of cool comments. A lot of people really enjoyed having you on there. And there was, I got some emails from people that just said, yeah, it was great content. It really was. It was unusual and just really cool. And then Cedar was reading some of them herself, and she said to me, you know, somebody just said they love me.
Okay, listen.
You know what I said? Everybody knows what I said. I said, I bet I know who that was. You know what, Jackson? I love you, brother. I really do. Class of 76? No chance. No. I think he was born in 76. I mean, way, way, way younger than class of 76. Yeah, I would not see that one coming at all. By the way, I just caught this really briefly, but I like the idea of the outro song being called A Cat in the Basket. Like, I really think that's a great idea. I really think that's a great idea. Alrighty, people. So, and I know I get squirreled because it's one of those topics. But this is the reality of what we have going on right here, right now, is that It's not an easy conversation. It really isn't. It's not an easy conversation to have with kids. It's not even an easy conversation to discuss how this ought to go, because we're in really uncharted territory. There's never been a time on the planet where getting high was dangerous like it is now. I mean, it was always one of those things that I wasn't even thought of then. Class of 1895. All right.
I feel tiny.
There's never been a time where you're risking your life to catch a buzz.
And, the only thing I could think of that could work is having kids fill out, have assignments on the worksheets of, well, what does this one do to your brain? What is this one? What are the pros and cons? But then if you start listing pros, you're going to get kids to be like, I want my brain to feel like that. I don't think there's a way to do it that's effective. And then kids are going to be absent. They're just not going to care.
I think that there's something to the concept. I really do, because I've told this story before, but I years ago, before I even went to prison on the bank robbery thing, I had a partner named Rex, and we actually went in and tested. And talking to, hey, ZW, good to see you. We went in and talked to high school kids, right? We got a school just outside of Lake Honeyroy, New York, to let us go in and talk to students. And it was not one of those situations at all where we tried to scare the hell out of kids. And we really did just go straight down the line in terms of, this is what the substance does. Right? This is when it gets into your body, it does this. We really did not go the route of, and here's 15 reasons why you shouldn't do it. I think that if Tommy Bird says, my kids were totally confused about it because they knew nothing about it. However, they understood not to take pills ever from anyone that isn't their parents, and that's what counts. You know what? And there's really something to that, obviously. And I think you break down why. Here it is. There's a substance out there that's cheaper to make than anything in the world. So the profit margin on this substance is bigger than any other. And because this stuff is really, really addicting, and because the euphoric effect on it is so pronounced, short-lasting, but very, very strong, they have the desire to cut this, right, into every other substance out there. They're putting it into substances that don't make sense, right? They're putting one of the strongest painkillers, a downer for all intents and purposes, into things like cocaine. I promise you could not make that make sense to me. If I was still in the life and someone was talking to me about that, I would say, come on, dude. Why the hell would you cut blow with a painkiller? That doesn't make any sense at all. But the truth is, it does make sense. It really does. They're not trying to put enough of this in there so that you're getting looped. In theory, what they're trying to do is put just enough in there so that you get that slight euphoric buzz. Because very often, the blow that's coming across the border isn't even blow anymore. For real. They take meth, they take basically lidocaine, they put on baking sheets, stick it into the oven, cook that until it's white, and they mix all of this stuff up. So if you taste it, it numbs you out, right? It does everything it's supposed to do. And the speed wakes you up, right? Really wakes you up. But there's not that sort of groovy feeling that you got with blow. So they put just enough of it in there, right? So that in theory, they're making this stuff into what should feel like Coke. But they've got the added benefit of, you're going to get addicted to this. And you're going to get addicted to this quickly. And I'm sure that there are people out there right now that are buying, they're buying meth in a way they never have before and feeling like, if I don't get this, I am going to be really, really upset. It's a different kind of, a speedball is a whole pack of pixie sticks, right? It's a half and half. It's a half and half is what it is.
Pixie sticks are like the little candies. Those are awesome.
This was one of my biggest problems, actually. Yeah. Hummingbirds got it. So it was a 50-50 split. Or if, depending on your taste, 60-40, whatever. But it was a mix of heroin and cocaine. The idea being that when you shoot coke, it is a very, very intense. There's no other way to get that stuff into your system that's more intense. It's going to light you up. The problem with it is you go straight up and you go straight down. And when you go straight down, everybody wants more immediately because you're left not even where you started. You're left way below that. And you're just feeling absolutely miserable. And it keeps people firing this stuff into a vein about once every 20 minutes. So the idea was that if you put smack in there afterwards, right? So they do a shot and the blow kicks in, and right around the time it's wearing off, the heroin's kicking in. So instead of having that, I need more, they just sort of melt into the couch. Trouble is, it really is pulling you in many different directions at the same time, which is really kind of a, you know what? Everyone says, shooting coke put a taste in my mouth I couldn't stand. This is a really, really odd phenomenon, and if you've never done it, then there's just no way to even understand it. But the capillary beds in your mouth, right, are basically intertwined with all your taste buds. So you do a shot of coke, and within 2 seconds, that's going through that part of your body. And you instantly you go, like you can taste the substance, which is bizarre, right? The first time that happens, you're like, how the hell did that happen? That doesn't make any sense. And I remember days where, you'd been doing it for so long that the only thing you're shooting for is that taste. Condemned prisoners say they said their last moments they can taste it. Anything that they put really heavy into your vein. Anybody here that was addicted to opiates, there are certain opiates that you shoot that you absolutely will taste.
When I was in the hospital, the anesthesia they would get me on before surgery, I tasted it. I've talked to you about those.
The propofol.
Versed?
Versed, there you go. Milk of amnesia.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cedar does have some decent perspective on a lot of surgeries. Everybody knows your basic diagnosis. I've talked about it. But yeah, the Versed, anything that they can put in, morphine, anything that they stick directly in a vein, usually you can taste it. And AKA Heather Joy says you definitely can taste it. You can take the flush of an IV. You know what?
It's like saline.
I had a PICC line that was put into me for a very long time, and you could screw in the syringe that you use to rinse the thing out. And to me, it always tasted like a speedball, for real. And I remember the woman at the hospital saying, "You're really not going to like the taste of this when I put it in there." And I think she was shocked. I was like, "Oh no, I like that taste. I really do. I like that taste." It's one of those things that wears out your veins faster than anything in the world. Speedballs or shooting coke is, you just sit and go through one right after the other, and it tends to wear out your veins because I used to get off from the flush, loved it. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely understand that. Dennis M says, "Madman, I'd like to hear that story, and I'd love to put you on. I really would. We just have to figure out the logistics of it. Got sepsis, had a PICC line put in after I left the hospital. I used the PICC line to blow my vein out with dope. Every single addict that got a PICC line, it just seemed like there was a super highway and you could put stuff in there really, really easy. Jen, good to see you. Johnny says, the idea of sticking a needle in my arm today is surreal. I can't believe I did it. I am one of those people where I have a difficult time with even the memories of it. I really do. I know I told the story on here a couple of times, but my partner, my previous partner that I worked with in the watch business, we were brokering watches for a guy, very wealthy guy. His family owned a couple of casinos. And we had to go and shut down this condominium, right, that he owned, and we were packing all the stuff out of there. And I opened a toolbox that had 8 or 9 U100s syringes in there, and it buckled my knees. I'm not even kidding you. Like I could feel my knees going weak. Crazy Brumfield says, I'm willing to go on your show and talk about my addiction, except mine wasn't a substance. Let me put this out here right now. My email address, I have 2 of them, right? I would like this one to go to sober, S-O-B-E-R, at myyahoo.com, right? Not Yahoo, but myyahoo.com. And what I would like to have happen, if any of you want to share your story on the lifeboat, this has been a standing, maybe we haven't said this recently. This has been a standing invitation since the very first day that we started the lifeboat, and we've probably done 10 or 12 in a year and a half. There are a lot of people that like the idea until it's actually time to do it, and it's not so much the public speaking aspect of it, right? Because we all know each other. That's not going to be, such a tough thing. What really makes it a tough thing is that this is an admission of who we were, and it requires owning your past in a way that can be a really, really intense thing. Dennis N. Writing it down, that journals are huge for that. It's a great idea, is to work through it. And if ever you want to make that public deal, I think that there are very few things that are more cathartic. With only about 1 or 2 exceptions, everybody that has come on and done it has been very, very happy that they did. However, the ones that were not happy, it really messed up. For real. Like for weeks, they went through it. And my bobble-headed partner was very open about that. When he came on and started to talk about certain things from his past, it messed him up for a long time. Took him a while to get right. So Sarah says, it's been over 20 years since I touched a needle. Praise the Lord. Did it in my neck. That wasn't me. It was the PICC line and the phlebitis, like the phlebitis that cured me of the needle. Scared me. Phlebitis. Anything that cures you of the needle is a beautiful thing. Anything that cures you of the needle is really, really a beautiful thing, because there are just so many bad things that can happen. We tend to think of the really obvious ones, but there are just so many really, really bad things that can happen. But standing invitation to anybody that would like to come on here and tell their story. And there's not a whole lot of prep. We spend about 10 minutes talking beforehand. We get here a little early so I can give you kind of an idea of the format. But I don't want to hear what you're going to say before the audience does, or it kind of sounds like we rehearsed it. And it's just doesn't make for very good content. But think about it. And if you want to come on, another way to share, if you've never seen the goodbye letters that we do on here, right? Go back and look at some of the goodbye letters that we did. This was really a beautiful concept, and it's not one that we came up with. It was it's done a lot in rehabilitation, but you write a letter as if you're writing to a person, and you say goodbye to your drug of choice. And this has really been very, very powerful for the people that took it seriously and worked it. Really a beautiful thing. Diary of a Madman says that's what dope does. And he was referring to trying to put a needle into a place that you probably shouldn't try to put a needle into. And as crazy as that sounds, it's not that crazy. And it's almost everybody I know has tried that once, but only once. Spanx Calhoun, who is definitely Johnny's nephew, says, this guy next to me at the train station is slurping his food. Drives me nuts. You sound so much like your Uncle Johnny. Oh, it's incredible. I did a letter, but I've never been on live. So after all this hearing crap is done, it will be my way of celebrating. I love it. I absolutely love it. Jen says, I would lose my mind if I were there. Ultra Maga, good to see you. You're good. Spanky, can you imagine being locked in a room with somebody for 19 months that did that? Seriously. I had a roommate, cellmate, that would chew with his mouth open. I mean, like, and it was one of those just awful. Well, that's pretty much what happened, Spanky. That was pretty much it. I mean, I remember sitting the guy down and saying, you know what, man? I got to do 18 months in here with you. You're going to shut your mouth when you chew. Like, I'm not trying to be an idiot, but I'll kill you, dude. Like, I can't handle this. You know, we never got to get away from each other. I had to do a goodbye letter in drug court. Oh, you did drug court, Ultra Maga? God almighty, is that a tough program? Very few people get through that. AKA Heather says, I did a goodbye letter in rehab. It really is a solid thing. Oh, yeah, that's foul. It really is just foul. Just one more reason to never get incarcerated. Sorry I can't say hi to everybody individually and still listen. I'm good at some multitasking, but not that. Well, we forgive you, Zen. My ex slurped everything and chomped with his mouth open. I had to leave him. Excellent decision, Jen. Seriously, top shelf. That's exactly what you should have done. I don't think you could fix that. I had to get a physical and roll up. Diary, I get it. I really do. Ultra Maga graduated. You may not believe this. You are the first person I have ever met that graduated. I'm not kidding. And I bet I know 100 people in my life that have tried, including yours truly. I didn't get through it. Miss me, some things you just can't deal with. Oh, that is so funny. And you know what? He's not piping up, but nobody is less tolerant of eating noise than Johnny Scoville. Nobody. I graduated drug court, but not high school. I'll be honest with you. I think that drug court would be a lot harder. AKA Heather Joy did it. Man, see this? The lifeboat is full of some success stories. Honestly, never. And I don't know. Maybe it's like here. I can't tell you how vicious it was. I mean, it was vicious. I have a story to tell as well. I need to work up the courage a little bit first because it involves my wife, my daughter's birth. So I'll have to discuss it with the wife. I understand completely. I don't have a story, just a realization of the drug and alcohol points in my growing up. That's kind of a story. It really is. That's kind of a story. We could still do better on the like button. 7 Sims, right? We can always do better on the like button, people. And it is appreciated. It helps the lifeboat push out a little bit farther. And, anytime that happens, we're reaching more people. Big, huge shout out on that front to my daughter. We picked up 14, 16 subs on after last night's video. I don't remember the last time that happened. In fact, I don't know that that's ever happened, but that was really awesome. San Bernardino County Drug Court out of Victorville. Ooh, I know the Inland Empire, right? The IE. I lived in the IE at Victorville. I was at that pen. Not a good one, bro. Not a good one at all. Victimville, they call it. It's awful. I have a story that starts with my mom's alcoholism. Heard that one before many, many times. We can do better on the more cowbell too, and he's right. We absolutely need a little bit more cowbell. If it counted, I push the like button on and off. It would it would help. Miss B, well done. We all need to hammer that like button with a sober fist. I like it. We need Cedar, a permanent member of the lifeboat. You know what? I'd be all over that. I don't know how much your mom would like the idea of me taking her full time, but I would like that. I really would. I can't wait for everyone to hear the next story you're going to hear is going to be Brandon. Brandon is the next story that you are going to hear. I put up my daily routine here mentioning the lifeboat and Marfugal. Love it. There are a lot of stories on here, but we are all one family. Thank you, Virginia. So true. It really is. And you know what's amazing is that there are as many ways to get where we are right now, right? The stories, there's a billion stories, right? Because every single person got to where they are in a different way, but it's the exact same story. You know, it's a story of recovery. It's a story of getting your life back. It's, yeah. I wouldn't mind doing it. Might help others who went through crazy times. I believe it would open up for others. I do need more time under my belt because of my slip. You know what? Here's the thing. In the very beginning, we put some people on. Mark and I made decisions to put some people on and do their stories. We knew that there's a risk that you put somebody on and they relapse 4 days later and you feel like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have put that person on. That's BS. That really is. This is absolutely part of the situation, and there are people who are going to benefit just as much from hearing somebody who is in their 5th day of trying to get sober as they would hearing with somebody that has got 4 years in. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sometimes when people are brand new, to hear somebody come on and say, got 32 years of sobriety, let me break it down for you. You know, if you got drunk the night before, you're going 32 years of sobriety. Are you woofing me? Man, I don't think I can make 32 hours of sobriety. So to see people at all stages along the way, and if you slip, you slip. Right? Sarah, I don't believe a slip means that everything that happened up to that point you throw away. I just don't see that. So glad for you and your close family. You know what? This is a close family. Every single part of it. My story is pretty wild. You all may or may not want to hear it. I've played a lot of pretty big rock shows. A lot of beer, a lot of drugs. You know what? And X chromosomes. Yeah, you know what? I would love to put that story on. I really would. Just don't stay in the slip. Amen, Pagan. Amen. That's a great phrase, too. I love that, Pagan. Just don't stay in the slip. Absolutely love that. Good night, Dazzlebug. Yeah, that's awesome, Pagan. That really is. That's awesome. You know what? If you slip, don't stay in the slip. It's reminiscent of if you're going through hell, keep going, right? Same kind of principle. So, yeah. Okay. Just checking, making sure she was still with me. This has been fun for a lot of reasons. Number one, I think it's important that we all kind of get a handle on the fact that if we're not talking to our kids, no one else is gonna. No one else is gonna. If we don't handle this, then we're gonna start losing a lot more. And Dennis says, "Hello, Cedar."
Hi.
And perhaps perhaps the day's coming where we put something like this together, right? I used for a positive. Captain, help me out. Thank you so much. Sirah, an honor. I promise you, it's an honor. Yeah, just get up again. Diary of a Madman. Good night to you, my friend. Good night to you. But this was also good because the more that we can get people to start coming on here and telling their story, it helps people in ways you can't imagine. For real. No matter how many times I come on here and talk about this or that, when somebody comes on and starts to tell what's going on, how is Wages affiliated with the Lifeboat? Wages was my partner in the Lifeboat. So I started the Lifeboat in July of 2021. And about 60 days later, Wages reached out to me and said, "Can I talk to you on the telephone?" I said, "Sure." We got on the phone and talked and realized that we were really on the same page in a lot of ways. And what we were trying to do what he wanted and what I wanted were running parallel. So Mark Wages became my partner on the lifeboat, and he handled all of the he handled all things having to do with anything technology-wise, right? Because after spending a little time locked up, right, for bank robbery, I didn't really have a handle on any of that. And he also was a darn good co-host. Go ahead.
You would be bad at technology whether you were locked up or not. Let's be completely honest here.
See that? Oh, how sharper than a serpent's tooth to have a thankless child. That's Bill, you know.
No, don't talk about Bill.
So, and then what happened is, Mark's got a lot on his plate. He's he's a dad, and he's got Wages World, and he's does a lot of work over with Marfugel, and we were talking, and he's just had some stuff that was going on with his family, and he said, you know what, I'm not ever going to step away from the lifeboat, but I need to step away from the lifeboat. And I said, when you're ready, the lifeboat will be right here, and your seat will be on the other side of the glass where you left it. And the day is coming where Mark is going to be back here and doing shows. He is absolutely a part of this and always will be. Always will be. And he's a brother. There's no question. The man is a brother. And I'm really damn fond of him. So that's how Wages is. That's the Wages affiliation with the lifeboat. He is the boat. He is the boat. Do not mess with the cat in the basket. If that cat gets out of the basket,
no.
I'm going to hold you up.
Listen. She was staring at me, and I did the good blinks to make her calm down, and now she's happy.
It worked?
Yeah. Stop doubting me. He's
I'm just saying,
mean to me.
No, it's not that at all. It's that the thing with the cat is, like this cat in the basket thing, there's way more complex than you think. Honestly.
Oh my
like
gosh.
I'm dead serious. Like if Squirrel doesn't stay in this routine, then there's an excellent chance that my daughter goes home and the cat will not get back in the basket for 2 weeks. And you've seen her. If you've ever been on the morning show, when Squirrel's not in the basket, she's taking the house apart. Mm-hmm. She's knocking stuff down. She's absolutely a terror. Cemetery, I got your fart right here. There's a comment you don't hear every day.
See?
You know what, Miss Dragon, you're not helping.
Miss Dragon understands.
Alrighty, people. I will be back tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. I may even make my daughter get up with me.
Do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't get up. It'd be
I
funny.
would.
She's lying.
I would.
And this is a cat in the basket. That's a good kitty. Now she gets treats. She loves it. Good night, everybody. We love you.